April 16th, 1985. Washington, D.C. A senior CIA officer on his way to the Soviet embassy. He is about to commit espionage, voluntarily. His name is Aldrich Ames. He will hand over secrets that took years to build, names of Soviet officials secretly working for the United States. People the CIA promised it will protect. Within months, many of them will disappear. They will be executed. For nearly 9 more years, the CIA will continue to trust him, promote him, and brief him. They will give him access to the very secrets he is selling to their greatest enemy. Langley, Virginia, early 1970. The CIA was short on staff. It was looking for reliable people. Officers who followed the procedures, filed reports correctly, protected secrets without drawing attention to themselves. Intelligence works rewarded consistency more than brilliance. Aldrich Ames fit that description perfectly, and that would later make him almost impossible to see. He grew up around intelligence culture. His father worked for the CIA, and the agency was never an abstract idea to him. It was familiar, structured, predictable. Joining in 1962 felt less like entering a secret world and more like continuing a path already laid out. At first, nothing about his career stood out, which, inside a bureaucracy, often counts as success. Ames was intelligent. He spoke Russian. During the Cold War, that skill alone made him valuable. The agency needed officers who understood the Soviet mindset, language, behavior, and political culture. On paper, he belonged. In practice, something was missing. Recruiting foreign agents requires persuasion, confidence, and emotional precision. Case officers had to convince strangers to risk execution for information. Ames struggled with that part. Reports described uneven performance. Assignments produced mixed results. Promotions arrived slowly. Not failure, but never excellence. And in large institutions, mediocrity creates a strange advantage. It attracts very little scrutiny. Small warning signs appeared during overseas assignments. Colleagues noticed impatience under stress. Decision-making sometimes became erratic. Alcohol appeared more frequently at professional gatherings. Nothing dramatic enough to trigger disciplinary action. By the mid-1980s, Aldrich Ames had reached a position many CIA officers spent careers trying to achieve: access. He worked in Soviet counterintelligence, the division responsible for managing some of the agency's most sensitive secrets. His desk connected him directly to reports about Soviet officials secretly working for the United States. These were not files meant to circulate widely. They contained names, real identities, people living inside the Soviet Union who trusted the CIA to keep them alive. Ames read those names regularly, and slowly he began to see them differently. At the same time, his personal life was unraveling. Divorce settlements drained his savings. Debt increased month by month. Financial pressure stopped feeling temporary and began feeling permanent. Then came Rosario Casas Dupuy. The relationship brought companionship and expectations. Travel, social life, expenses. Ames wanted a life that matched how he believed a senior intelligence officer should live, but his salary could not support it. The gap between income and lifestyle widened, and gaps create questions. Inside the CIA, financial disclosure rules existed to catch exactly this situation. Officers reported assets periodically, reviews were conducted, risk factors were monitored. But the system relied heavily on honesty, and honesty is difficult to audit without suspicion. No one suspected Ames, so no one looked closely. Around this time, Ames recognized something others missed. The CIA trained officers to detect recruitment, coercion, ideology, blackmail. Investigators expected spies to be pressured into betrayal. But what if someone needed none of those things? What if betrayal was simply practical? That realization changed everything, because recruitment leaves evidence. Volunteering does not. In April 1985, Ames wrote a letter, short, direct, professional. He identified himself as a CIA officer willing to exchange information for money. No political statements, no justification, just an offer. To prove credibility, he included something priceless: identities of Soviet assets working for the United States. He understood the psychology perfectly. The information was too valuable to ignore. He walked to the Soviet embassy alone. No secret handler guided him. No coded signal arranged the meeting. He approached the front entrance. Inside, Soviet intelligence officers faced a dilemma. A walk-in claiming to be a CIA insider could be a trap. American counterintelligence sometimes used false defectors. They asked for proof. Ames provided it. And in that moment, suspicion turned into opportunity. In exchange, Ames requested $50,000. Within a month, the payment was delivered during a lunch meeting with Sergey Chuvakin, a KGB officer operating under diplomatic cover as the embassy's first secretary. From that point forward, communication began through controlled face-to-face meetings disguised as routine CIA recruitment contacts. The most destructive transfer occurred only months later. In June 1985, Ames executed what investigators later called the Big Dump. He removed hundreds of classified documents from CIA headquarters in Langley, carrying them out in ordinary plastic shopping bags. The material contained the identities of nearly every major Soviet source working for the West. The exchange took place during a lunch meeting at a public restaurant. The method relied on simplicity. Shopping bags attracted no attention. A senior CIA officer eating lunch with a foreign diplomat appeared normal. The transfer succeeded because it looked ordinary. By hiding the operation inside everyday behavior, Ames avoided suspicion entirely. The documents transferred during this period allowed Soviet counterintelligence to identify and dismantle American assets with precision. Among those exposed were Valery Martynov and Sergey Motorin, both KGB officers secretly cooperating with the United States. Each was recalled to the Soviet Union, arrested, and executed. Dmitry Polyakov, a senior GRU colonel and one of the CIA's most valuable long-term sources, was arrested in 1986 and executed 2 years later after Ames revealed his identity. In total, at least 14 Soviet agents were compromised. 10 were executed. Ames later admitted he understood the likely outcome of these disclosures, but continued the operation to preserve both payment and access. As Ames proved his value, Soviet handlers reduced reliance on direct meetings. The operation shifted toward indirect communication designed to minimize surveillance risk. Signal sites were introduced. Ames used a simple visual marker, a horizontal yellow chalk line placed on a specific blue mailbox in Georgetown. The mark indicated readiness for contact or transfer. Once acknowledged, the operation moved to a dead drop. Dead drops allowed materials to change hands without personal meetings. Ames placed document packages at predetermined locations, including wooded park areas and a pedestrian footbridge in Bethesda, Maryland. Handlers later retrieved the materials separately. Documents were packaged in waterproof containers or ordinary bags to avoid attracting attention from passers-by. Each stage was separated: signal, drop, retrieval. No single moment connected both parties. Payment followed its own operational structure. Over 9 years, Ames received approximately $2.7 million in cash, with additional funds held for him in Moscow. Money transfers were conducted independently from information exchanges. Cash was often left in concealed containers, including drain pipes in public parks such as Wheaton Regional Park. To integrate the money into daily life, Ames used foreign bank accounts, including Swiss accounts opened under family names, to avoid CIA financial disclosure scrutiny. The funds financed a new home, purchased largely in cash, and luxury purchases that gradually altered his lifestyle. In 1986, Ames was reassigned to the CIA station in Rome. The transfer system continued without interruption. He met regularly with a new Soviet intermediary, Alexei Krenov, under the cover of attempting recruitment. The meetings provided a legitimate explanation for contact while maintaining operational security. During this period, the volume of intelligence increased dramatically. Ames later estimated he passed more than 1,000 documents per year, often transporting material in shopping bags. The flow became so large that Soviet handlers reportedly asked him to slow down so intelligence analysts could process the material. Payments during this phase ranged from $20,000 to $50,000 per exchange. The hunt for Aldrich Ames did not begin with a suspect. It began with silence. In 1985, the CIA's Soviet network started disappearing. Years of recruitment vanished in months. In 1986, a small internal team was formed. Jean Vertefeuille led it. Their task was simple to describe and almost impossible to complete. Find someone who left no visible trace. They worked quietly, reviewing files, timelines, and operational histories. Day after day, they searched for patterns that did not want to be found. They were not chasing a man. They were chasing absence. For years, the investigation stalled. The KGB helped it stall. Rumors spread that Edward Lee Howard, a former CIA officer who had defected to Moscow, was responsible for the disaster. The explanation was comforting. If Howard caused the damage, the threat was already gone. The betrayal came from outside the building. Leadership wanted this to be true. But the investigators noticed something wrong. New agents were still being exposed, people Howard never knew existed. The timeline refused to cooperate. The leak was active, which meant the mole was still inside. By the late 1980s, the team changed its question. Not how was information leaking, but who was living differently. Aldrich Ames returned from Rome in 1989, and everything changed. He bought a 5-bedroom house in Arlington for $540,000 in cash. He arrived at work driving a new Jaguar. His clothing changed. His watches changed. His lifestyle changed. His salary did not. Officially, he earned about $69,000 a year. The math did not work. When colleagues asked, Ames explained that his wife came from a wealthy Colombian family. For a time, security officials accepted the answer. The agency had other scandals to manage. Few wanted to accuse a colleague without certainty. The anomaly remained. In August 1992, Sandy Grimes tried something different. She built a timeline. On one side, she listed Ames's lunches with Soviet diplomat Sergey Chuvakhin. On the other, unexplained deposits into Ames's bank accounts. The pattern appeared immediately. Every meeting was followed by money. Not sometimes, every time. The investigation changed in that moment. Suspicion became calculation. The evidence was no longer emotional. It was mathematical. Even then, the system protected him. Ames took polygraph examinations in 1986 and again in 1992. During the second test, deception indicators appeared when he was questioned about foreign contacts. Ames stayed calm. He redirected attention toward his wife's finances. The examiners did not know about the financial investigation. They evaluated behavior, not context. They trusted rapport over readings. He passed. The mole hunt lost 2 more years. In 1993, the CIA turned to the FBI. The investigation received a code name, Night Mover. Surveillance began immediately. Agents followed Ames everywhere, disguised as joggers, workers, elderly pedestrians, young couples. His home was wired. His phone conversations were recorded. Investigators listened as Ames and his wife discussed money and fear. Then came the trash search. Agents intercepted his garbage and reconstructed a shredded Post-it note. It revealed meeting schedules and dead drop locations. For the first time, the investigators were no longer guessing. They were confirming. By early 1994, Ames planned travel to Moscow. Investigators knew what that meant. If he left, he might never return. The arrest had to happen immediately. On February 21st, 1994, President's Day, Ames was called into work under the pretense of urgent intelligence business. As he turned onto his street in his Jaguar, FBI vehicles closed in. Agents surrounded the car. There was no chase, no resistance. After 9 years, the betrayal ended in silence. In interrogation, Ames saw photographs covering the walls, his meetings, his drops, his movements mapped in detail. Investigators had reconstructed his hidden life completely. He pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty and secure leniency for his wife. He received life without parole.